Good morning. All right, so Numbers chapter 25. But before that, the other day I was confused on the Ammonites and the Amorites. So this is what I figured out. I found a great map. That the Amorites, so you have the vertical, I need to have a map just to hold up. I'm going to get a map. Someone want to get me a nice map of the Middle East. But then I'd have all these different maps, right? One of you that looks east. And then once the Amorites were wiped out, Ammon eventually moved over and took over that territory. So that's part of this, because here's the deal. Yesterday, this actually plays in why I was looking up geography. It is because Balaam could not curse the Israelites as Balak, the king of Moab, desired him to. But in the end, Numbers 31:16. Look, Numbers 31:16. So my suggestion to you guys, if you have a pen and you have your Bible, right there in verse 1 of Numbers 25, make mention of Numbers 31:16. Look, these women caused the children of Israel through the counsel of Balaam to trespass against the Lord in the incident of Peor, and there was a plague among the congregation of the Lord. Okay, Revelation chapter 2, verse 14. I also mentioned Balaam. He's mentioned in Jude. He's mentioned in 2 Peter. Revelation chapter 2, verse 14. But I have a few things against you, that those of you who hold the doctrine of Balaam, who taught Balak to put a stumbling block before the children of Israel, to eat things sacrificed to idols and to commit sexual immorality. So this is such a helpful thing when we can put the Bible together and we get all these pieces to understand, because in Numbers 24 and 5, we don't get that. Balaam arose, chapter 24, verse 25, and departed and returned to his place. Oh, so we assume that Balaam never curses Israel. Oh, so that's a good thing, and he just left. Well, again, Numbers 31:16, Revelation 2:14, it tells us, no, Balaam couldn't curse them. So he teaches them, if you want to get at them, you need to get them to sin against their God. And once you get them sinning against their God, he will no longer protect them. And so it says that Israel remained in Acacia Grove, and the people began to commit harlotry with the women of Moab, right? Because it was Balak, king of Moab, who wanted to do this. They invited the people of the sacrifices of their gods. The people ate and bowed down to their gods. So Israel was joined to Baal of Peor, and the anger of the Lord was roused against Israel. The youth, we were just looking at Solomon. What's today? Thursday. On Tuesday night, we were looking at Solomon and how his heart was led away by pagan women. And we actually spent some time thinking about how people get in relationships with unbelievers thinking that they're strong enough, when in fact, no, they get pulled into the pagan ways, which is why we want to become equally yoked. In fact, if you can, yoke up. Find someone better and more spiritually, faithful and sound than you are. But so what happens is that the Lord says to Moses, take all the leaders and hang the offenders before the Lord out in the sun, that the fierce anger of the Lord may turn away. So Moses said to the judges, every one of you kill his men who are joined to Baal of Peor. And indeed, one of the children of Israel came and presented to his brethren a Midianite woman in the sight of Moses and the sight of all the congregation of Israel, who were weeping at the door of the tabernacle of meeting. So get this now. This is something as far as I know, this morning is the first time it ever jumped out at me, is that this woman, right, is not a Moabite. She's a Midianite. Now the Midianites are down in Saudi Arabia near Mount Sinai, where Moses fled to. And so what we see here is that once they compromised and started bringing in Moabite women, they compromised and brought in Midianite women also. And the idea is we start compromising in one area of our life, and then we begin to compromise in many. I'm going to pause right now and say good morning to Susan and Steve and Laura and Asia, all you guys who are joining in. I see you guys are there, so I'm not ignoring you. But it is, so there's a compromise. And once they begin to compromise a little bit, a whole lot more compromising begins to happen. And so here it says Phinehas. Pinehas is actually in Hebrew. Pinehas. But Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron the priest. So there's Aaron, right? Moses' brother is the high priest. His son Eleazar is the next high priest in line. After Nadab and Abihu got killed in Leviticus 10, Eleazar took the next spot. Eleazar's firstborn son, who will then become the priest in the book of Judges, is Phinehas. So Phinehas comes, and he rose from among the congregation and took his javelin in hand. And he went after the man of Israel into the tent and thrust both of them through, the man of Israel and the woman through her body. So the plague was stopped among the children of Israel. 1 shot, 2 kills. Now you can do your math and realize there's give or take only one way that's going to happen if you can kill both of them in their tent with 1 shot. And those who died in the plague were 24,000. And the Lord spoke to Moses saying, Phinehas, verse 11, I have this highlighted in my Bible. Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron the priest, has turned back my wrath from the children of Israel because he was zealous with my zeal among them, so that I did not consume the children of Israel. Therefore, behold, I give him my covenant of peace, and it shall be to him and his descendants after him a covenant of an everlasting priesthood, because he was zealous for his God and made atonement for the children of Israel. Now it goes on to name the women there, and then the Lord tells them to go after the Midianites and to teach them a lesson for that. And so they go and kill the people, but Phinehas here, God says he was zealous with my zeal. And that's something really cool and really important, is that we aren't called to just be zealous in what excites us. It's not just about what gets our, motors going. It's not just about but with godly zeal, the kind of zeal that God has. He was zealous with a godly zeal, and he went out there and he took out, right, the people. And these days, we could use some godly men and godly women. Now, no, I don't think Christians should bomb a Planned Parenthood. But we shouldn't be afraid to speak out. We shouldn't be afraid to be bold. And we shouldn't be afraid to stick it to people sometimes when they're doing ungodly things that hurt our children or hurt the weak or hurt the poor or are driving people away from the gospel. Let me give you an example of something that's not physically harmful, it's not bad and wrong, but you know what? It's taking a stand. A good friend of mine, his church in Spokane are be joining us in Israel this fall. And he said that when back in the day, he lived in this apartment complex, when he's a newlywed, and the Mormons would come around. And they'd come, the two boys with their name tags and their shirts and their ties. And what he would do is when they came by, he would leave his home and begin to walk with them. And as they went to try and go talk to houses, he would go right up with them and tell the people at the door, don't listen to these guys. They are false teachers and they are spreading a damnable gospel. And the Mormon boys were like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm doing the same thing you're doing, except for this is my neighborhood. And I'm not going to let you guys go around here and spread your false gospel. He took a stand. Very bold. Love it. I've never done that. I've actually gotten them to come into a Bible study before. That was kind of fun. We had the youth study, and we brought the elders in, and they sat through a verse-by-verse study of John chapter 20, I think, or 19 and 20. Something that was the crucifixion, or it was right in there. And so, but the point is that, being bold and being zealous with godly zeal, like Phinehas. Phinehas was actually one of the boy names I always said it'd be fun if we had another boy, but didn't have another boy with the last few kids. So, didn't get to name a kid Phinehas. But, yeah, godly zeal. God honored that. Someone who's like, you know what? I'm going to take a stand. I'm sick and tired of watching the plague destroy the church. The plague of compromise, the plague of worldliness, the plague of this, that, and the other. I'm going to take a stand. I'm going to start being bold on God's behalf. You know, I can't remember the quote. I wish I could. But Leonard Ravenhill always had good things to say about prophets. And he just talked about no one liked the prophets. The prophets were never liked. They were not likable people because they were the ones calling people out and saying stuff very forwardly. But the prophets also lived holy and righteous lives. The prophets were blameless. And the idea is, as Jesus said, to first remove the speck from your own eye so that you can more clearly remove the speck from your brother. So if you're going to take a stand and be bold, well, just make sure that you've got your ducks in a row first. Make sure you're not living in compromise while you call people out on their compromise. Be bold about your own personal holiness. And then take a stand for God. All right. Thanks for joining, guys. I'll see you guys tomorrow at 7:45 a.m.